Okay, good almost afternoon, everyone. I hope we're all doing well. Part three of our series, 6 consecutive mitzvos, based on Rav Noach Weinberg's writing and teaching. And we are up to number 2. Just a reminder for everybody out there, if you have any questions during the class, please feel free to write it in the chat, and I have the chat open. And I'll try to answer your question on Facebook Live. Just write a comment, and I'll try to answer your question during the class. Otherwise, you can wait till the end of the class. I'll be more than happy to have a discussion with you or a question, answer your questions if you have. But please, during the class, feel free to go ahead and utilize the chat. So we're up to number 2. We spoke about number 1. Mitzvah number 1, just very quickly, was believing in God, right? Believing the existence of God, and we went and we elaborate on that, and I don't want to go back into that right now. What is number 2? Number 2 is don't believe in other gods, right? The second of the 10 commandments. Lo yelachalu kimachem al panai. Do not have another God besides me. The commentaries ask a very interesting question. It's something to really reflect on, and really opens up the discussion to this unbelievable insight into what this mitzvah really means. We're talking about 6 consecutive mitzvahs, right? We're talking about the mitzvahs that one has to be aware of all the time. So it's understandable, the positive commandments, right? Believing in God. So that's something that someone has to do all the time, right? That's something that someone's thinking about all the time. But how do we have a consecutive mitzvah, something that is constant, on something negative? Negative means to say that you are refraining from doing something. For example, right? So it's not my example, but it's an example that I am it happened to me, and I'm sure it happened to a lot of you out there, right? You're flying on an airplane, and for some reason your kosher food got misplaced, or the travel agent, back in the days of travel agents, right, forgot to order you, or forgot to put the order in, or for whatever reason there was a mix-up and you not getting kosher food. It has happened, right? This has happened, and I've been on the plane where it has happened to other people. There was a mix-up; they forgot to order kosher food. Now you're on this 11-hour flight, right? 8-hour, 11-hour flight, and okay, you brought some goodies from home, a cookie here, a bag of chips there. The stewardess are all very kind and very nice, and they bring you extra bags of peanuts and soda, right? And everybody else, lunchtime or supper time comes, and they're wheeling the carts, and everybody's getting their yummy food, whatever it is, if it's a piece of steak, a piece of meat, a piece of chicken cutlet, whatever it is. And you're sitting there with your bags of peanuts, right, and a half-eaten Danish that you brought back with you. That's what you're eating. Now, how do you feel? It's not the schmuck. No, it's not. It's not the best feeling, right? But that is in a situation where you're able to do the mitzvah of not eating not kosher, the negative of not to eat not kosher, right? That's when you're able to accomplish that mitzvah, right? You're able to fulfill the mitzvah, the negative commandment, to accomplish the negative commandments of not eating kosher, right? It says don't eat non-kosher, don't eat pig or other things, and so you're able to accomplish that in that scenario because you are hungry. There's only non-kosher food of substance, and now you're holding yourself back and you're not eating. On a regular day today, right now, am I fulfilling the mitzvah of not eating non-kosher? Am I fulfilling that mitzvah? No, because I have plenty of kosher food. You're right, I'm not eating non-kosher, but I'm not actively fulfilling that mitzvah. It's a mitzvah that is that I'm not being tested on it right now. So this is a very important just to think about it. The only time you are accomplishing and fulfilling the mitzvah of a negative commandment of not doing something is when you have the opportunity to do that. The other opportunity to go ahead and do a transgression, and you don't, that's when you fulfill that mitzvah. Just, I'm sorry, I forgot to mention this in the beginning. Today's class is dedicated in memory of my grandmother, Sara bas Ya'akov נחmיה, my mother's mother. May her memory be for a blessing. I knew her very, very well. She passed away about 7 years ago. And actually, Huvi, my daughter, Bubby Sara, Huvi is named after her. And may the learning that we do today elevate her soul. So just, sorry, I forgot to mention that. If anybody else wants to sponsor things, please let me know. So back to our discussion. So now with this introduction, right? So how could you have a consistent mitzvah? Rav Noach Weinberg said, one of the consistent mitzvahs are, and it's not him, right, is believing the second of the Ten Commandments, not believing in other gods. To have the mitzvah consistent of not believing in other gods, it has to be that I'm constantly struggling with believing in another God. So there has to be a challenge right now. Oh my gosh, this is an idol. I want to bow down to it. No, you know what? I'm going to hold myself back. I'm not going to bow down to it. That would be that I am refraining from doing that aveirah, from that transgression of believing in another God. But I don't have that struggle right now. The first class we spoke about believing in God, so we spoke about that. Or what does it mean believing in God? The depth behind it. Of course, I believe in God, but on a deeper level, emotionally, right? An emotional connection, and we delved into that. So I have to be constantly aware and reflecting and believing in God on a daily basis. But how is it that refraining and saying I don't believe in other gods, how's that a constant mitzvah? Very powerful question to really think about it. And really, the question takes us even deeper because nowadays, we don't really have the struggle of believing in other gods. Right? This is, everybody talks about it, we'll answer this. But sort of to twist the question, to tighten the screws, we don't really have struggles nowadays to believe in other gods. Really, we have, the tree on the island. I want to go bow down to the tree on the island. Here, it's fine. Oh my gosh, there's certain people that are into Buddhism and other things that I don't want to get sidetracked. And there's a question of other religions, are they considered idol worshiping or not? Not for our discussion today. But on a constant, regular, day to day, right? And your typical person doesn't really have the struggle of believing in other gods. So more than just not being put in the situation, right? Question number one was a negative commandment. The only time you have overcoming the negative commandments. Sorry, the only time you're overcoming the negative commandments is only when you have the struggle. And right now, I don't have the struggle. Right? So over here, right, question number one is, how is it constant mitzvah? Question number two is, right, we don't really have the struggle nowadays of believing in other gods. Right? So of course it's not constant, and how is it really so applicable in our generation? Okay, very good, Linda. We're gonna elaborate on that. Very good. Right, Linda's saying that we could get caught up in other things, sort of being our gods, and we're going to talk about that. What does that mean, and how is that practical in our day-to-day activities? Very good, Linda. We're gonna elaborate on that. So let's take this step by step. King Solomon said like this. King Solomon in Psalms says, "There should not be inside of you a strange god." Right? Right? Do not have inside of you a strange God. What does it mean, do not have inside of you a strange God? What kind of strange God is it referring to? The Talmud asks. The Talmud asks, what do you mean you shouldn't have inside of you a strange God? So the Talmud and Tractate Shabbat, Daf Yomi, for those that are learning Daf Yomi, is right around there. I'm a little behind, so I'm not sure exactly what day they're on, right? But it's on page 105, so the people that are learning Daf Yomi should be there right with either this week or next week. And it says like this, it says, what is this strange God that is referring to, that King David is talking about? It says, Zu Yetzer Hara. It is an evil inclination. Right? The self-destructive inclination that's within each one of us is a strange God, right? That King David is talking about. So this, of course, opens up a question. What do you mean? We have a Yetzer Hara. We know what the Yetzer Hara is. The Yetzer Hara is that demon, that devil, the person that's trying to get us, a little man with the pitchfork, but the red one, not the white one. Right? We have all our interpretations of the evil inclination, the Yetzer Hara, and what it means, and that's the idol. That's an idol. Whatever you want to interpret and explain, identify, right? Expand on what the Yetzer Hara means. But the Yetzer Hara is a strange God inside of you? What does it mean that he's a strange God inside of you? What does that mean exactly? So the commentaries explain that how does idol worshiping start? How did idol worshiping start? Right? Let's think about it, right? According to what we believe, right? Others believe the world has been in existence for billions of years and it came from molecules and whatever. And I don't want to get into that discussion. What we believe, right, is that there were 6 days of creation, as it says in Genesis and Bereshit. And God created Adam on day 6. And then there was a little sin. He got kicked out of the Garden of Eden. I don't want to go through the whole history right now. But be it as is, right? He had children, and they had children. But Adam knew God. Adam and Eve, Adam and Chava knew that God created them. They spoke to God. They had a whole discussion. Right? Adam was considered actually very spiritual and holy, even with his sin, because there's not a righteous person in the world that doesn't sin. So the question is, Maimonides talks about this, how did idol worshiping start? Where did it start? Adam taught his child, believe in God. God is the one that takes care of us, okay? Next generation, believe in God. If everybody would have listened to their parent, okay, that's a good question. Not everybody listens to their parent, right? But if everybody would have listened to their parent, right, and believed in what, and at that time, that was the only thing, there's only one, they would have believed in God. They would have believed in one God. Right? And everything would have been fine. So how did idol worshiping even start? Maimonides says something so powerful. Maimonides says that, in the beginning, idol worshiping was not a negative thing. They did not have negative intentions. What did they think? They said, God is almighty and God is so powerful. And we don't have the ability to speak to God. Us, peewees, earthlings, right? A couple of generations after Adam, we're not worthy to speak to God. So you know what? We're going to pray to God's ministers, and they believe, as we all know, that everything in the world has an angel. Right? The sun has an angel. The moon has an angel. Everything has an angel. The zodiacs, and they believe that these zodiacs and the sun and the moon and everything, right, has a specific power. Of course, because God gave them the power at that time. But they felt that if they prayed to them, that they will be their advocate, like a minister talking to the king, which we do nowadays, right? I necessarily could speak to the mayor or to the president or whatever it is, or the president of a country club or the hospital or whatever it is we need to. I know someone that knows that person who is, is friendly with him and knows him and has a conversation. So we call it protexia, or that's just the way it works. A minister speaks to the king, vice president or a board member speaks to the president on behalf of someone, or you speak to a doctor that that will speak to the doctor that you need, because that's the way it works. And that's what they thought. They thought that that's what we should do, and therefore they went ahead and they started praying to the zodiacs and the sun and the moon and other things, not because they believed originally that they were gods, but they prayed to them that they should go ahead, right, and be their messenger to God. But as Maimonides says, the first generation had good intentions, but it was false, and we'll talk about why. It wasn't the right thing to do. And then the next generation forgot why they were praying to the zodiacs, right? And they thought they were praying to them because they were gods themselves. And that's how idol worshiping started, and they forgot about God completely. So what do we see? We see that the whole concept of idol worshiping started and came from the lack of ability to think that you could talk to God. The lack of ability to think that God is the ultimate power. Of course, he's the ultimate power, but they felt there were other things in the world that had some powers. Of course, because God gave them power. But we are not worthy to speak to God, and therefore they had to go ahead and speak to them to speak to God. Say the commentaries, that's the evil inclination. Why did they feel that they weren't worthy? The evil inclination was putting them down and saying, no, you can't speak to God. Who are you to speak to God? Why do you think you could speak to God? Look at what you have. You have talents, you have this, you have that, and we're going to talk about that in a minute. But to speak to God? No. You have to get help. You can't do it yourself. That is an idol mentality. The idol mentality is, and Linda, we're just expanding what you were saying. And an idol mentality is thinking that you have some power, right? But by thinking that you have some power, you might think that you don't have enough power. And an idol mentality is that there's other things in the world that have power, including God. But there's other things in the world that are controlling and have abilities to control things and to run things. And we need them to get to God, maybe. But they have powers and they have control. And that's idol mentality. And that's how idol worship started in the beginning, in the first place. I saw this beautiful line. What is the greatest challenge of our generation? And where I think we all agree to this. Right? What's the idol worshiping of our generation? And the greatest challenge is to give attribute and our success to admit that our success and our achievements are because of God and not just ourselves. Because of the help of God and not just because of ourselves. We think that we are the ones that are successful in what we do day to day. And we're going to tie this in a minute to how idol worshiping started and why they didn't want to speak to God. Just bear with me. It says in Deuteronomy, at the end of Deuteronomy, not the end, the middle, it says, right, that, and we know this, it's a very famous line, right? Kochi ve'otzim yadi asli esachayil hazeh. My power, my strength, and my hand, my outstretched hand, made for me the wealth that I have today. Excuse me, when Moshe was rebuking the Jewish people and giving them musar and tell them what's the proper conduct, he said, do not say, Kochi ve'otzim yadi asli esachayil hazeh. That's my power, my strength that has given me everything that I have today. I'm smart, I'm tough, I'm rich, I'm able to accomplish anything. Who needs God? So I wouldn't say who needs God, right? I'm a religious Jew, right? I believe in God, whatever level I believe. I go to synagogue, I wear a kippah. So last week we spoke about the concept of believing in God. But when you say, I'm smart, I'm tough, I'm rich, I could accomplish it, you're not necessarily saying I don't need God. But what you're saying is that I'm able to accomplish it by myself. I believe in God. That was last week's, what it means truly believes in God. But now we're talking about the next one, believing in other idols. By me saying that I have the power, what am I doing? I'm saying that it's me. I have the strength. I believe in myself. Now you can say, what's wrong with believing in yourself? There's nothing wrong with believing in yourself, having a healthy self-esteem. So that's what we spoke about in this morning minute, having a healthy self-esteem. But what we're talking about over here is more than a self-esteem. Over here, we're talking about believing that you're the one that accomplished it without God, and I don't need God. That is idol worshiping. That's idol worshiping, 100%. You believe in other powers. Now, halachically, in the Code of Jewish law, we're not going to give the punishment for idol worshiping because it's referring to other things. But in the philosophy of it, in the meaning behind the mitzvah, it's 100% idol worshiping. So this beautiful idea, and this connects to what we're talking about at the beginning of how idol worshiping starts. It says like this. Attributing power to yourself does not give you more power. Taking the power for yourself, saying that I'm the most powerful, does not give you more power. What does that mean? Right? Because if you think that you're the one that's accomplishing it, if you think it's because of your wealth, because of your strength, because of your intellect, because of your Torah knowledge, turn it something spiritual, my intuition, whatever it is, it's because of me that I was able to accomplish X, Y, and Z. I was able to finish the Talmud. I was able to give more charity. I'm wealthy. I'm able to help people overcome their challenges and whatever it is. I have the intuition to help people. I have physical strength. I can build a lot of sukkahs and I can do a lot of chesed. Whatever it is. When you think it's because of your abilities, then the second that something comes that's beyond your abilities, what do? I can't. Not for me, I can't do this. So you're actually limiting your power. Because everything that you've been doing is just because you think that you have the power to do it. But the second that you believe in a higher power, the second that you believe that God is the one that's giving you the strength and the power to do this, yes, with your talents, and we're going to talk about that. But the second that you switch your attitude and say, no, I believe that God is the one that's giving me the abilities and the strength, so then what does my attitude change? I can't. God gave me wealth, and God is the one that helped me be able to, support the kollel and the Jewish education and Jewish day schools and our synagogue and help out the Federation and Israel. And now I'm on some rough time, but God's the one that helped me originally. So I'm going to do my effort, which we'll talk about later. And I could try. I still can because I'm with God's help and God's the ultimate power. He has ability, he has unlimited funds, like we spoke about it last week. God can, and nothing diminishes God's power. So the idea of believing in yourself, guys, is beautiful. The idea of believing in yourself, thinking that I am the one that's accomplishing everything, really limits your abilities. And that's why they felt that they couldn't speak to God back in how idol worshiping started. Why do they think they couldn't speak to God? Because I'm limited in my abilities. I'm only a certain level of spirituality. My prayer only goes so far. Because they believed there was all them that was accomplishing it. And therefore, we need help from the ministers, and they start praying to the sun and the moon and the zodiacs, and eventually they forgot about God. Because the root of their wanting to spend time and pray to these zodiacs, even though originally it was a good intention to get a connection with God, was all based on their lack of belief that God's the one that's helping them, which is idol worship, because you believe in yourself. So really, the beginning of idol worshiping, what Maimonides says, because they started praying to the zodiacs and other powers in the world, initially was to get them to be closer to God, but that was stemming from their lack of belief in God and believing that they're the ones that have all the power. And that's where idol worshiping starts. So if you believe in God, and you believe that your abilities are not all it, and that God's the one that's giving you your abilities, and God's the one that's allowing your abilities to flourish, then you have I can do attitude. I can accomplish this. I can be part of something. I can't give more charity. I can learn this. I can take on another mitzvah. I can accomplish more because God's the one that's lifting your wings. God's the one that's helping you out. But the second that you have a flip attitude, and your attitude is, no, it's all me. I'm the one that's accomplishing this. It's my intellect that allowed me to learn as much as I've learned. It's my intuition that allowed me to help other people out. It's my wealth that I've accomplished that allowed me to be a charitable person. So the second you reach a step where it's a little beyond your abilities, then you have a I can't do attitude. I can't. I can't take on another mitzvah. I can't help out that person. I can't be a communion person at this time. Things are too difficult. I can't. And say the commentaries, that's what the yetzer hara wants. That's what it means that the evil inclinations within you, the yetzer hara wants you to believe that you're the one that's all the power, that you start having I cannot do attitude and not I can do attitude. And that's the evil inclination that's inside of us. And that's the yetzer hara. So before we take the next step and try to work on how to make sure that we have a can-do attitude and building ourselves that we are not to be full of ourselves. And I know full of ourselves is a little harsh of a word, but let's be honest, we all are. And anybody that says that they're immune to this, they should rethink themselves. Because we all have it to a certain degree, some of us more than less, some of us on certain things. I'm going to talk about three main points of how to make sure that we build ourselves up and not believe in God, that God is the one that's helping us, and not to be full of ourselves. But before we do that, I just want to close up the answer that we started off with. We started off with, how is it that not believing in God is a consecutive mitzvah? We said not believing a negative commandment is something that I'm constantly in struggle with, right? I have to be constantly in struggle with it. Like we said on the airplane, that's when you are overcoming, you're accomplishing the mitzvah of not eating non-kosher. But right now, when I'm talking in front of you, right, I don't have any non-kosher food in front of me. I have no desire and I have no struggle to go ahead and eat non-kosher food because I have plenty around and I don't need it. So I'm not accomplishing the mitzvah, and I'm not overcoming the mitzvah of not eating non-kosher because I have no struggles. When I'm on the airplane and all I have is a bag of peanuts and it's this 11-hour flight, and the last time I ate was 4 hours before I even got on the plane, and I'm hungry, everybody else is eating, and the nice stewardess says, are you sure you don't want another one of our meals? And no one else is there, right? You're wearing a baseball cap, no one knows. And you hold yourself back. That's when you're overcoming and you're being successful fulfilling the mitzvah of not eating non-kosher. But back to the question, how is that with not serving, not believing in other gods? And the answer, as we just showed, that not believing in other gods is something that we're struggling with every day. Because the other God that it's referring to, yes, of course, idols, but on a daily basis, referring to ourselves. And that's something that we're with ourselves every day. There's a constant struggle of not believing in let me rephrase that. Of course, we have to believe in ourselves. But it's a constant struggle of not thinking that you're the ultimate power. There's a constant struggle and realizing that God's the one that's helping you out. So therefore, it's a constant mitzvah. And it's a mitzvah that's so applicable in our generation, every generation. That's the beauty of this mitzvah. So now, with that introduction, no, it's not really introduction, just kidding, right? With that, I just want to home in on three things, right? Of three ideas, right? Of how to make sure that we focus and work on not being full of ourselves and including God within ourselves. So there's three main things, and I'm sure there's others, but I want to talk about three things. The three things that typically people take the credit for themselves. Number one is natural abilities. Natural abilities, right? Imagine, right, a natural ability. Someone, what's it called? The Olympics is full of natural abilities, right? A sprint runner, right? You could throw something far, jump high, right? The long race, and all of us, constantly see all these. I get it all the time. These, on Facebook, they give you like different video things. They want you to watch their video things. And as I'm scrolling down through just to see what's going on, right, I constantly get like different challenges, right? Weight challenges and driving challenges. And I actually enjoy watching it. It's cute, right? But, the other day I saw this, the strongest man in the world, right? Lifting all these rocks and moving it, and then the bigger rocks, and then pulling this heavy chain. The abilities, right? Natural abilities, strength. Okay, working on it, cultivating it. Someone that has a nice voice, an artist. Natural abilities, we have to work on it. But imagine like this, right? Someone tells you, I want you to hold up your right hand. Okay, hold up your right hand. And now I'll prove to you how smart I am. I am by saying whether it's the left or right hand that's up, right? Sorry, someone tells you, raise up your hand, right? Doesn't tell you what's hand. Now I want to tell you how smart I am, right? Sorry, right? Listen how smart I am. I see you have your right hand up. Yeah, we all know that. But look, I'm able to see with my eyes. It's a natural ability, right? It's a natural ability. And anybody, you're going to look at him like he's crazy. We all able to see with our eyes, and not everybody. And the temptation of thinking that you're better than other people based on natural abilities, right, is when you have something that's a little different than other people. But one has to realize that natural abilities, it's the same thing as being able to see, being able to run fast, have a beautiful voice. Those are gifts from God. So we have to curb that temptation. Each one of us has some temptation. Maybe this is not your thing. Of a natural ability, well, look how, me. I know you won't say that, but inside you feel that way. We have to curb that temptation and recognize that God's the one that gave you that gift. Instead of becoming arrogant and saying, oh, look how great I am, and how dare you even approach me, because I've been singing in the opera, or I'm this great ball player, or I'm this great whatever, and I'm a great debater, or I'm so strong, or whatever it is that one has. Realize that it's a gift that God gave you. You might, yes, we'll talk about it. You might have to enhance it and work on it and cultivate it. But at the same time, it's God gave you that ability. Utilize it for something good. Recognize that God's the one that gave you that ability. The second you do that, you're accomplishing the mitzvah of not believing in other gods. You're not believing in yours. You're not thinking that it's all your strength. And if you need help to remind yourself that, think about a natural thing that we all have. It's ability to be able to see, ability to be able to walk. My sister can't walk by herself. Oh, am I better than her because I can walk? No. No one ever thinks that. Oh, look how good I am because I can walk and you can't. God forbid. We'll never think that I'm better than someone else because I can walk and they can't. So why are you better than me, and why are you so full of yourself? Because you have a nicer voice, or you have a greater intellect, or you could run faster, you could throw faster, or you could throw something further. So if we need to work on that point, remind ourselves that we won't think that we're greater than someone because we could see and they can't, or we could walk and they can't. So same thing with other abilities that are a little more unique and less people have it. Remind yourself, God's the one that gave you that gift, and then utilize it for good. Number 2, taking credit for accomplishments. And so this is a little different than abilities, right? And natural abilities. But this is something that you've accomplished. Right? So, for example, right, an artist that created this unbelievable painting. So, yeah, one point of it, this is a double. It's the natural abilities that you have, right? But then also, wow, look at this painting that I've accomplished. And it is an accomplishment. Then feeling that I'm the one that created, I'm the one. Imagine someone telling you, you won't believe what I accomplished today. I opened up my mail and there's a check for $1 million. A long lost uncle, right? Yeah, we always say, right? A long lost uncle died and left me, right? His inheritance. I cashed a check and now I'm a millionaire. And am I great? Really? Are you great because you were able to cash $1 million? Okay, you're a millionaire. Now let's see what you can do with that. Right? But your uncle is the one that gave it to you. What is he proud of? He didn't do anything for that $1 million, but he went and cashed it. It's the same thing with our abilities, right? With our accomplishments, right? God gave you a talent, and now you cashed that talent. So let's hope you cashed it and did something good with it. Right? Imagine taking that check of $1 million and throwing it in the garbage, or taking that $1 million and doing something not nice with it, or hurting people. So God gave you the talent. That's number one. Remember, that's talent, natural abilities. Now, God allowed you to accomplish whatever it is that you accomplished, because people have natural abilities and not necessarily do they get recognized, not necessarily do they accomplish things with their natural abilities. So that's step number one. Recognize your natural abilities are a gift from God. Number two, when you have an accomplishment from it, you won the race. There's 30 people there. They're all fast. They're all very fast. They made it to the Olympics. One person won the race. He's the fastest. The other people still have natural abilities. They're still able to be proud of themselves that they made it to the Olympics. But then there's the next step of the accomplishments from the natural abilities, or from other abilities, or from your savvy in business, or whatever it is. Being able to give a good talk, and being able to convince people about things, and being a good psychologist and helping people out. Whatever it is that you're a good lawyer, being able to help people out of their problems. Whatever it is, you won the case. Of course, you're allowed to give yourself a pat on the back. But remember that you're just cashing the check that God gave you. You're cashing it in the right way, I hope. You're cashing the check that God gave you. Right? God gave you the ability to accomplish this. So remind yourself that. Right? The temptation is to say, look what I did. That's taking credit for it. Instead, thank God for the opportunity. As we say, Baruch Hashem, we say, thank you, Hashem, for giving me the opportunity. That's a healthy way, and it's become talk. We have to really mean it. Right? We have to mean it, because that's how we strengthen our relationship with God and not connect to, God forbid, the evil inclination of believing in other gods, and believing just in ourselves. And number three, taking credit for being good. Right? This is a very strong one. This is the strongest arrogance of all, is look how good I am. I'm doing the right thing. Right? People want to feel that I'm good. I'm doing the right thing. Of course, nothing wrong with believing in yourself. But thinking that I'm the one, right, that has created this goodness, right? I saw an analogy, and again, these are, some of these things might be even thinking on a higher level, because some of these things are splitting hairs a little bit, right? We have to notice really on a fine line. But sometimes we need an analogy that's out of the picture to make us realize what's going on over here. And I saw this beautiful analogy. Right? Someone comes over to someone and says, you know how great I am? Yeah. I had this terrific urge to cut off my nose. It was terrible. I had such a desire to cut off my nose. I had the razor in my hand. And you know what? I fought myself back, and I decided not to cut my nose off. Look how great of a human being I am. We'll look at the guy. We'll feel bad for the guy. We'll say, Buster Brown, sorry, maybe you need some help, right? Maybe you need some help. That's oh, look how good you are that you didn't cut off your own nose. We also have to, the good deeds that we do, or when we refrain from saying Lashon Hara about someone, or we go ahead and daven, we go ahead and do positive, we help people out. We should be proud of ourselves in the sense of propelling us to do more good. But we also always have to make sure that we recognize that God's the one that gave us the abilities to do good. Through the Torah and the mitzvos, through the friends and family and community that we're in. Let's recognize that, and let's grow through that. So those are three things that one has to work on, and there's many other things. But just one more caveat in this discussion, right, which I think is very important, and I kept on alluding to it, right, and I said we'll talk about it, is how do we manage the balance in between effort and belief, right? In Hebrew, we call it hishtadlus and emunah. How do we balance that? Because we're saying that we believe in God, and we shouldn't be we kept on saying, no, you should be proud of what you're doing. You should have a healthy self-esteem, as we spoke about this morning in the Morning Minute. But at the same time, recognize that God's the one that's doing it. So how do we have a balance, and how do we make sure that we have the right balance in between these two things? And that's a class all for itself. Really, it's a class all for itself, and we don't have time for it today. Right, but I just want to point out one very simple test that one has to do for themselves. When something happens, when you accomplish something good, or when you're around other people, do you think that you're better than other people because of whatever it is? Do you think you're better because you're a good speaker? Do you think you're better because you have a nicer voice? Do you think you're better because you're wealthier? Do you think you're better because you can run faster? Do you think you're better because you've helped so many people out and you're such a Baal Chesed? And sometimes we have to dig deep down, as I mentioned, to really think in the kishkis, what do I really believe in? The second that you think you're better than other people, or you pity other people because they don't have what you have, then you're full of yourself. That's not the effort. That's not hishtadlus, and you're lacking belief in God. Because the right mixture is recognizing that you have a talent and utilizing that talent to help other people out, to help yourself out, but all in the service of God, and recognizing that God gave you that talent. Doesn't mean to say that you can't feel good about yourself. And we're grateful that God gave me this talent. And I'm very grateful that I have the ability to help other people out. And it feels good to help other people out. But not to the extent of thinking that you're better than other people. Not to the extent that you think that you're here, you're their savior. You're here to make sure that they have no problem. No, God's the one that's making sure they have no problem. You're just his messenger. And if you don't work out, God will have 100 million more messengers. So don't think it's all you. There could be other cantors, and there could be other wealthy people, and there could be other people that make beautiful paintings, and there could be other people that sing nice, and there could be other people that speak well. There could be other people that go and help people out in their times of need. God has many, many, many messengers. To be grateful that God allowed you to be a messenger to help other people out. Having talents is a responsibility. The second you realize that it's a responsibility, and not to make yourself think that you're better than other people, but now you have a responsibility to other people, to your community, to your congregation, to your country, to your family. That's when you know you're on the right track. And you're fulfilling the mitzvah, the second of the 6 consecutive mitzvahs of not believing in other gods. But the second that you're not looking at it as a responsibility, and you think that because you are the one that's helping these people, and they need you, then you're full of yourself. Maybe on a thin line, and it's the beginning of something. but you have to be very wary because God has many messengers. God has ultimate power, as we said in last week's class. God can accomplish anything. And you should be grateful to be his messenger and the one to help other people out. So let's focus on this. Let's reflect on this and realize that it is a consecutive mitzvah. It is a consecutive thing constantly every day to be aware, and it's hard and it's nagging at us to recognize that whatever abilities and strengths and talents, and each one of us has something, accomplishments, good things that we do, is our way to connect with God. And it's with the help of God that we're able to accomplish this. And it's a responsibility that we have, and not to be full of ourselves. And when we have this attitude, as we said, then you will have a can-do attitude. When something a little more difficult comes your way, being able to accomplish another mitzvah, overcoming another challenge, being able to help a little more people, doing services when it's a little not as comfortable as it used to be, or whatever it is, you can have a can-do attitude because you know that everything you're doing is with the help of God, because you're just God's messenger. And God gave you the challenges, and God gave you the ability to overcome them, and therefore you could do it. That's how we're able to constantly fulfill this mitzvah of not believing in other gods. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Again, today's class was in memory of my grandmother, Sara Bas Ya'akov נחmia. May her memory be for a blessing. And again, if anybody's interested in sponsoring any of our classes, please let me know. Everybody have a wonderful day.